is the right word to use. It is the reason for the existence of Birmingham. If it were not Red Mountain and the iron ore, there would be no reason for Birmingham to be here. So, yeah, Red Mountain is the reason, in my opinion, why Birmingham is here.
Grace's Gap is where it all began. That's where Bayless Earl Grace, as I said, in the 1840s, first found iron ore, first loaded it into his wagon. He took it down to Bibb County and had it turned into cast iron. He found out he could make some money off of it. So if you go up there today, that's kind of where it all started. It's a very spiritual place because if you live in Birmingham, you can kind of stand where it started, and you can see this whole overlook of the city as it is today. So it's pretty cool. If you've lived in Birmingham a while, you kind of get the spiritual sense that, like, okay, I have roots. And so that's why they all really started coming here, because he owned the first land. He started selling the mineral rights off to different companies and investors on the mountain, and that sort of led to them mining in a big way during the Civil War. But back in those days, I mean, this area was really very agrarian. I mean, it was people were farmers, and they didn't realize that under their feet was just all of this iron ore that was about to make Birmingham, make the area they lived on into a major industrial section.
And then in 1880, DeBartolome decided that he was going to try again with his luck. So he opened the Alice Furnace Company. So in 1880, they opened that furnace and started mining here. And that was really the beginning of the commercial development of this area. Once they did that, it was not long that one of his friends was Sloss, Mr. Sloss, and he encouraged him to open a furnace, and he told him he would give him some really good deals on coal and iron ore to help get him started basically at cost. And so the Sloss furnace opened. The city started to just really spring up after the early 1800s. Birmingham had been formed in 1871 as a city, and so Birmingham was growing, and with all this industrial expansion, the population was growing. And from what you hear, that because the city was growing so fast and everything, that's one of the reasons they called it the Magic City. They had mining camps. The company owned all the houses, they owned the company store, they owned everything. And since there was limited transportation for you to go anywhere else, you just basically spent your existence in the mining camp. So you lived in a mine company owned home. You shopped in their stores. You were paid by their companies. And you've maybe heard the song where it says, "I owe my soul to the company store." Well, that was basically true.
They wanted to make them very happy, so they built them very nice houses. They had free medical care. Their kids went to school, went to free company schools. Everything was provided for them. They were paid in company money, as I said, that they could exchange for everything they needed in the company commissary. So it was a sustainable life. It wasn't a great life because, again, that's kind of something where you're kind of indenturing people. If you can't be paid in real money, that means you can't leave the camp. Mining in Birmingham was definitely a way of life. I mean, as I said, if you worked for the company, you had a house, so that was your livelihood. Yeah, working in the mines was really different for here in the South if you were working anywhere else. The mines, for the most part, were very integrated. If you were working underground, they had to have the right people on there. So they couldn't let a simple thing like race stand between a person who knew what they were doing and a person that did not. So they had to be very integrated down there. Now, when they came above ground, it was a bit of a different story because you're talking about the Jim Crow South. You're talking about very racist laws that were enacted to keep the races separated. There are bathhouses that we have here on the property that are in ruins now. That you can actually walk up to them and you can see two sets of stairs, two separate rooms, separate but equal in square footage, and you can see a line that goes between them where a wall once stood. Okay, and those were segregated bathhouses. That was just the law of the land, and the companies had to go by it. And it's really devastating to see. But if you can imagine standing outside of a mine shaft in the 1930s and looking at all these miners coming out of the mines, covered head to toe in red dirt. You didn't know what color they were. You didn't know if they were black or what. They were just red. They were covered in red dirt from the iron ore. You know, they were all the same color, but they had to come out of the mines and be separated. You know.
And I would be going to school. I could, from my house, I could see all over downtown Birmingham, and it was just this red cloud hanging over the city, because all these furnaces, Sloss Furnace and Woodward and U.S. Steel, they're pumping out all this smoke, and it just sits in this valley. And so some days you would be up at my house and you'd look out and all you'd see is just the tips of the tall buildings sticking up out of the smoke. So that became a real concern during the 70s, was the pollution. So they started shutting down a lot of the furnaces. And it was a good thing for Birmingham, because now we can all breathe much better.
If you want to really talk about why Birmingham was so important, you know, they were finding iron ore out here at a time when growth was happening in America unlike you've ever seen. I mean, you know, cities were being built, cars, you know, Henry Ford, you know, they were phasing out trains. I mean, steel is really what you needed to kind of build a city and secure an infrastructure, and Birmingham had a lot of it.